Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Sonoma Music Meditation. I'm Tim with Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau, and we're joined with Eric and Tanya with the Valley of the Moon Music Festival. Guys, hello. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Thanks for having us. We're happy to be with you.
Well, I am glad that you've decided to join with us today. Valley of the Moon Music Festival. Tell me about that. What is it, and how do people, interact with it normally?
Okay, well, normally, yeah, okay. So we started it 5 years ago. It's a music festival that focuses on chamber music on historic instruments.
Okay.
We have an apprenticeship program where we produce and nurture younger, up-and-coming, fantastic young musicians who come from all over the world. We choose 5 every single year, and they perform with us and other internationally renowned musicians from all over.
And we produce about, they come to Sonoma.
They all come to Sonoma. We all stay in different people's houses, wonderful, generous hosts in Sonoma. And we also have wineries pouring their beautiful Sonoma wines after each concert. The concerts take place at the Hannah Boys Center the second half of July. We're about to go into our 6th season this season. Okay. And we do about 6 concerts that run the whole second half of July into the beginning of August. Am I missing anything?
Yeah. And for now, we're trying to plan for this summer. Everybody should keep posted for updates because we're, of course, experiencing the same uncertainties as everybody, but we're trying to plan for it for the second half of July, starting, I think, the 17th and going through August 2nd.
Multiple concerts. So if people, it's not just one and you miss it. It's like if you can hit this one, or you can hear a bunch of different types of music.
Right. It's every weekend at 4 o'clock Saturdays and Sundays, and then we have a couple of extra concerts on the final weekend as well.
Okay. And what surprised me is I think you told me that some people learn pieces just for the festival. Like they don't.
Yeah.
Including us.
Yeah. We spend the entire year very carefully programming different pieces that go together, and we have a different theme every year. So This year is the 250th anniversary of Beethoven, and so it was going to be all about different composers and their responses to Beethoven's genius. Like some composers could never write to their 9th symphony because he wrote such an amazing 9th symphony they felt completely crippled by his genius. Or some people were inspired, some people hated him. So we had all different composers ranging all the way like to Ravel and John Cage, and as far back as C.P.E. Bach. That was one of Bach's sons, who's really interesting and had a lot of influence on Beethoven. So we were going to be exploring this whole thing. And as part of the exploration, we have something called the Blattner lecture series. So we get in some really fantastic lecturers that talk to us all about how to place all this music in context.
And if we're not able to, depending on what happens this summer, if we're not able to present it in the planned way for the big audiences in the hall, then we'll find a way to present most of this material over the next either at that time live streaming, or over the next year in different times, or we're still exploring all of that and trying to figure out what the options are. But, yeah.
I like that because we can just call it Beethoven in sweatpants, because we only got
that's good. Yeah.
Or no pants.
Or no pants, exactly. We're open. But, I'm glad you guys are here. We're going to roll a performance from last year.
David Belkovski, and he was he was our apprentice pianist last year.
Okay.
And he's a great musician. He won a big competition in New York and for fortepiano. Violinist is Rachel Barton Pine, and she's a pretty well-known violinist that we were very happy to get to work with. Another of our previous apprentices, who we call our laureates, who graduated from our apprentice program, now we call them our laureates, is Madeleine Bouïssou, who's playing the cello. So it's a nice group of a couple of younger people, and the more experienced Rachel Barton Pine, an experienced and wonderful musician. And they're playing Franck, a piece by Cesar Franck, who's a pretty famous composer, but this piece is somewhat obscure, and we were happy to kind of bring it out of obscurity because it's a really fun, kind of boisterous and great piece, and they all enjoyed. I think they didn't know the piece, and the audience didn't know it, and so it was really fun to explore.
But how long do they have to practice? Like, do you just give them the sheet music and you're on, or do they get like a week?
Yeah, well, part of what you do at a festival is you all come together, and part of what we do for the younger players like Madeleine and David is we coach them in the interpretation of it. So we work really intensively together, and they're working there with Rachel Barton Pine, who's an extremely established soloist. She comes from Chicago. She's based in Chicago. Chicago. David now lives in New York, and Madeleine has since moved to Holland. And both David and Madeleine will be joining on Facebook and answering people's questions.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why don't you tell me what we're about to listen to?
Yes, this is Cesar Franck piano trio called Trio de Salon, and it's 2 movements from that. It's the Andantino and the Finale.
And this is performed by David Belkovski on piano, Rachel Barton Pine on violin, and Madeleine Bouïssou on cello.
So we're about to hear a duet. It's by, I believe, Rossini. And can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes, so Rossini was predominantly an opera composer, and this is actually written for just voice and piano, but it's very operatic sounding, and it's called Serenata or Serenade, and it's basically just two people serenading, man and woman serenading each other. It starts with the man, and the way we did it, the way they decided to do it, the man comes from afar and finds the woman, and then they talk together about how the moon is so beautiful, and they find a obscure place in the woods and be quiet and cautious, but they can have their little assignation there, and that's what the words are.
And the singers, Kyle Stegall, who's based in Missouri, and Nikki Einfeld, the beautiful soprano who's based here. Nikki will be available while you're listening to this to answer your questions and make little comments during the performance.
Great. That's what I love, that we're going to have the performance was taped live or recorded live. Now we're going to premiere it live and actually have the singer here. So that's fantastic. Yeah. All right, well, let's take a listen.
Salva